Welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of October 25th to October 31st. I am your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing The Lighthouse, the current War of the Director's Cut, and the Halloween edition of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, we're starting off this show with a little bit of a new format regular listeners might notice. So we are starting off now with the Movie of the Week. Dave, what is your Movie of the Week recommendation this week?
That's currently playing. I'm going to recommend that people do check out Zombieland Double Tap. I went to see it last weekend, and it is not quite as good as the original. The original had a lot of surprises and really funny. This one is also, though, laugh out loud funny. It's got a really great new character that is, as soon as she shows up, you're like, oh, what a cliche. But she just brings a new, fresh take to a really kind of staple kind of cliche character. It's really very entertaining, and the whole cast does a great job.
Is that the Emma Stone character?
It is not the Emma Stone character.
Again, as listeners from last week will know, I have not seen Zombieland.
Well, now you have Zombieland and Zombieland Double Tap to check out,
right,
because they're both worth seeing. And how about you, Aaron? Did you see anything this week that you want to recommend to people?
Kind of keeping in that vein, I guess. I wasn't out at the theater, but I caught up with Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, is one of those movies, I don't know why I think I mentioned on the show before, certain directors, I don't look up reviews ahead of time to see what, the critic consensus is. And certain genres like this, the horror kind of slasher suspense genre, right, I don't usually look up reviews. So I just watched it cold because I wanted to watch that one, and then the David Gordon Green one I have on my table over here to watch as well. And I don't really have an expectation of Rob Zombie, but I really liked it. And
there you go.
I think it was because I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't really have an expectation to it. And then, is it like the first 40 minutes or so? It's the origin story of Michael Myers as a kid. Right. And I wasn't expecting that. That's usually like the opening scene, or, if you're sticking with the Carpenter kind of format to it. And, it kept going and kept going. And it starts off horribly, horribly cliched. And this scene with the stripper mom and the abusive boyfriend, it was like, these are caricature. It was just really bad, really, really bad. But since it kind of stuck with it.
But you stuck with it.
It did. And it kind of expanded a bit more of that storyline. It starts off very cliche ridden, but it got really a lot more interesting. I think it's that element, though, where when you have a kid in a horror movie and it's rated R, and he's torturing animals right away and everything, kills his pet. I wasn't really sure how far Rob Zombie would go with it, and knowing Rob Zombie's previous films, he'll go pretty far.
He's going to go very far.
Yeah, that really kind of kept a bit of tension on me. I was like, what are they going to show this kid doing? So that kind of had a built-in bit of tension there, but it had more of a Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper kind of horror vibe than the John Carpenter kind of restraint, almost minimalist kind of horror that he did with the original Halloween. So I think that really endeared it to me. And then, the last time with Michael Myers is, it's Michael Myers being invincible superhero that he actually is, and, terrorizing the town. Getting to see Malcolm McDowell choose some scenery is always fun. So I really like that part as well. And I think it also helped that I saw it 2 days after seeing Joker in theaters. So origin of evil psychopath kind of stories. I was like, oh, these are actually...
It's interesting that the movie that you recommend that you saw this week isn't Joker, but you're recommending the remake of Halloween.
Well, technically, Joker was right before the week started for our recording purposes. Right. So I don't know. Joker's kind of an interesting light recommend for me. I wasn't I mean, I'm impressed by the performance, not really the direction. It was one of those
I really
even based on the preview
I
months ago, I was like, okay, it looks like a great performance. I don't trust the direction here, but
I like the movie quite a bit. But I know it's been a divisive film for people.
Yeah, it has, which is I don't know, interesting and maybe a topic for future conversations as we get closer to award shows. And Joaquin is definitely going to be looked at for that one. Well, we will be right back with the new films opening this week at the theater. Well, the first new film we're opening this week is The Lighthouse from co-writer, director, producer Robert Eggers. This is the hypnotic and hallucinatory tale of two lighthouse keepers on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s.
Tell me, what's a timberman want with being a wickie?
Just looking to earn a living, just like any man. Starting new.
On the run. Keeping secrets, are you?
No, sir.
Why'd you spill your beans? Why'd you spill your beans?
So, Dave, I have a question for you. I've only
Yes.
listened to the trailer. I'm trying to go in spoiler-free on this movie. I haven't seen it at all. I just want to be, completely, hopefully, joyfully surprised when I see this. Based on just the trailer, so no spoilers for anybody here.
Based on just the audio of
based
the
on
trailer,
just sorry,
is what
the
you're
audio of the
saying.
trailer. Do you think Why'd You Spill Your Beans is going to become the next I Drink Your Milkshake?
I don't know if it's going to be quite that kind of cultural phenomenon, but yeah, it's got this movie's got a lot of buzz for both performances. Obviously, this is an anticipated follow-up to The Witch, which was a fantastic movie. Sort of, the very definition of art house horror film is The Witch. And this movie is kind of hard to define as far as like what genre you'd put it in. And it's, it's almost like Bergman-esque in that you've got the sort of, sort of almost like a rugged man version of Persona, I guess,
Yeah.
These two guys stranded in this, stark black and white world, living in this lighthouse on this remote island. So yeah, it's a fascinating movie. So I think but I don't know that it's going to tip the scales into the cultural lexicon like drink your milkshake. But wouldn't that be great if it did? You know what you need to do is you need to start using it in conversation every day so that it does.
That's true, yeah. And then eventually I'll be able to wear the t-shirt just like I have for I Drink Your Milkshake.
You know what? Make your own shirt. Who said
there you go, that's true.
That's what Zazzle is for. Just go online and order up your own shirt. But yeah, this movie I think again proves that he's a very unique filmmaker that's willing to step outside the box. Obviously he's shooting in black and white. He's not shooting in even widescreen or some other format. It's like the kind of old 1:3:3 kind of aspect ratio, or it's not even 1:3:3, is it?
No, it's not. I looked up an interview with him. He's shooting it on film, so yay for all the film geeks out there. 35 millimeter. It's a 1:19 aspect ratio, which for people unfamiliar with aspect ratios, like 1:1 is a square. So this is like just barely not
almost
a square.
Basically a square.
But it's basically a square. He said that they used some augmented lenses from as early as 1918 and as current as 1938. So this guy is like current. A Paul Thomas Anderson level, like geeking out about the cinematography here. So it's
very
pretty
contemporary.
Exciting. Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, The Witch was shot 1:6:6, which is more like what you're saying, kind of more of the current black and white kind of movies.
Yeah, and that's like a kind of a European aspect ratio. European films are shot at that. So,
And the other thing that stood out to me, like when, for those of you that saw The Witch, the dialogue, the way he wrote dialogue in that movie was very specific and of the time period. And he had said he was reading a lot of books and pamphlets and things to get that kind of the lexicon down for that time period. So on this one, he co-wrote this with his brother. He said they were consulting 19th century slang and nautical dictionaries for jargon, which I was like, that is so perfect. And knowing how Willem Dafoe gets to be such like this method actor kind of guy, I'm sure he's poring over dictionaries and nautical dictionaries to get his jargon right too. There was another same article, Robert Eggers. They were asking him, could you describe the movie? And he described it. It was an amazing quote. Nothing good can happen when two men are trapped alone in a giant phallus.
I'm going to disagree with that, but okay.
Well, when you're talking about psychological horror, I guess. But it's we mentioned last week, too, you can kind of see like Birth of an Auteur. Like this is Robert Eggers' second feature film that he's made so far. And it has, again, he's checking a lot of those boxes. He's working with the same composer. He's working with the same editor. He's working with the same cinematographer. It's not the same. I don't think he has any returning actors from The Witch, but being like a two-person isolated tale of madness in a lighthouse. Right. He was contacted by both Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson after The Witch because they really wanted to work with him. So it's one of those, just like the gift of making a great debut feature, opens up some possibilities to filmmakers that you just didn't see coming. But getting those two actors together, if you would have asked me that like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, no. But no, Robert
But now
Pattinson
you
and Willem
get
Dafoe
it.
now. I cannot
Yeah.
wait to see this one.
And the other film we're opening this week, but not at the Cedar Lee, we're opening at the Capitol and our Chagrin cinemas, is The Current War, directed by Alfonso Gomez-Rejon. And it's the dramatic story of the cutthroat race between electricity titans Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse to determine whose electrical system would power the modern world.
Which also, there's Tesla in there as well as a character, so I'm not sure why
Tesla.
they didn't want to include him in the overall synopsis of that. But you've got Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch. Obviously, that's going to bring to mind the last two Avengers films because they've been sharing the screen together. But this was, as we mentioned, I think, was it last week's episode or a couple weeks ago when we were talking about The Current War, the director's cut coming to theaters. This movie was shot so long ago, it got trapped in that whole falling apart of Miramax as a company.
Or the Weinstein Company.
Or, sorry, yeah, before Weinstein Company fell apart. So this is actually the first time Tom Holland and Benedict Cumberbatch were working together. But we also have Nicholas Hoult in the mix as the aforementioned Nikola Tesla. All right, we'll be right back with the special events this week at the theater. Well, special events are becoming a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming, so we want to take a little bit more time here to let you know about the special events we have coming up this week. The first one is the wildly popular Met Opera Live series presented in HD. This week we have Manon. It is showing on Saturday, October 26th at 12:55 p.m. That is going to be the live broadcast. And the as usual, the encore show is the following Wednesday. That'll be Wednesday, October 30th at 1 p.m. And both shows are playing at the Chagrin Cinemas location as well as at the Cedar Lee location.
And continuing our shows of the new anime film One Piece Stampede, we've got a bunch of shows coming up this week of that. If you didn't get a chance to see it this last week, it's going to be playing Saturday, October 26th at 1:30. That's a dubbed version. And then Tuesday, October 29th at 7 o'clock in a subtitled version. And then again, Wednesday, October 30th at 7, once again as a dubbed version.
And the annual Halloween edition of the Rocky Horror Picture Show is coming up this weekend. If you want to see it before the Halloween holiday, you've got your chance Saturday, October 26th at 11:59 p.m. And what really is Halloween without a performance by Simply as Servants and the Rocky Horror Picture Show? That was actually the first time I saw it in a theater. Was up at Cedar. It was like a Halloween show. Yeah. It was like one of those like rites of passage in my high school theater program that we got a huge group together and went up to see it for Halloween.
Yeah, the Halloween shows are usually some of the biggest shows of the year for Rocky Horror.
Oh, yeah.
Frequently that sells out. So if you're interested in going and that's your plans, make sure you buy tickets in advance, because I always say there's nothing sadder than the people that show up in their full Rocky Horror costumes, get to the box office and find out the show's sold out, and it's like, where else are you going to go?
Right.
Fishnets,
well, to be honest, this close to Halloween, you may be able to blend in at some nearby
true. Yes.
Halloween party, but
in February, then that happens.
Yeah.
Not so much. But you're right. Around Halloween, maybe you can get
it's
away
the
with
one
that.
time of year you may actually blend in up and down Lee Road.
And then we also have our continuing National Theater Live presentations, which we have another encore presentation of A Midsummer Night's Dream on Sunday, October 27th at 11 a.m. This is the new production of Shakespeare's classic comedy, starring Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones.
BTS is back on the big screen and in cinemas. This is the BTS World Tour, Love Yourself, Speak Yourself, the final. Sunday, October 27th at 8 p.m. live from Seoul. I cannot imagine this is actually their final concert. It's like the biggest live, touring band in the world right now. There's no way this is final.
But I think isn't one of them leaving or something like that? So I think that's why this is considered the final.
I haven't updated my
someone had
BTS
announced that
fan
they were
page in a while.
leaving.
I'll have to check on the current news.
I haven't followed it that closely either, but I feel like that's sort of seeped into my brain from the general pop culture ether out there. So I think that's why this is considered the final. So it is going to be a huge event for BTS fans. And so it's great that Fathom picked it up to stream it live to everyone here in the States.
I wonder how many people listening right now are screaming like, of course he's leaving. Why don't you know this stuff?
And we also have Fathom Events and G-Kids Presents Spirited Away. This is, of course, Miyazaki's Oscar-winning animated classic. That's going to be playing Sunday, October 27th at 12:55 p.m., and that's in the dubbed version. And then Monday, October 28th at 7 o'clock, and that's subtitled.
I think the Ghibli stuff is the one of the few anime exceptions where they take so much time to do the dubbed versions as well. Like, it is really kind of a take your pick either or, because there's great voice acting that goes into all of their dubbed dub productions. I mean, I'm still a subtitled fan myself, but they put in the time to do a really good quality dub version on the Studio Ghibli stuff. The last event we wanted to let everyone know about this week is Fathom Events presents Cirque du Soleil in cinemas. This is Luzia, October 29th, Tuesday, October 29th at 7 p.m. Cirque du Soleil just seems like it's built for the big screen, the cinematic experience.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen them live before?
I've seen them live several times, actually. Yeah, I've seen a lot of different Cirque du Soleil shows, and I've never seen one of the filmed ones in the theater. But I would guarantee that it's like having the best seat in the house. You know what I mean? When you see one of these things, because there's a lot of stuff going on sometimes on the stage in a Cirque show. So this is really going to help focus on like what you need to see.
I was gonna say I've seen one live and one on screen, and I didn't have great seats, which was exactly what you're saying when I saw them live. So seeing it live, there is the spectacle of holy crap! I cannot believe humans can do that, and you still kind of feel that on film or when you're watching it in a theatrical setting, but I was able to appreciate a little bit more of like the nuance and some of the specific performances. Like you said, there's so much going on, and it does kind of guide you visually through, but I mean, it's made for a big screen spectacle for sure.
And some of their shows, I haven't seen this show, but some of them, they have a sort of loose narrative of some storyline to it.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see if when they film it, if they in some way help convey that storyline cinematically. I would assume they try, but I just haven't seen the one myself. Maybe I'll try to get to this one.
We will find out Tuesday, October 29th at 7 p.m. if this one has that or not. And if you're a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedarly 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head over to any of our social media accounts where we are posting our picks for best modern black and white films inspired by The Lighthouse. And also be sure to join us next week on Cedarly Radio, and we will be discussing 3 new films opening to theater. We will be discussing Cassie Lemon's Harriet biopic, Taika Waititi's Jojo, and Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.